All right, continuing on with Charlemagne, Master of Europe. This is on turn 5, and there was a lot made of how difficult this game is as a solo game, which I would tend to agree with. But largely, like I'm not finding myself in danger of losing right away. Either through combat or through having to sacrifice victory points to boost my treasury or whatever. The biggest problem so far has been money. Actually increasing your treasury. It looks like the only way you can do that during the campaign phase is through hitting leaders and eliminating leaders and collecting their bonus value as treasure. And so far, the only place I've even had any leaders has been in the pagan regions, which is the brown region here and the orange region there. And you can see currently they don't have any leaders. That's because I've had Charlemagne, who you can see there is in Friuli in the Italy region. I had him run around and siege the big stacks of guys that had leaders in the brown and orange regions, and that was good. The orange leaders are pretty bad. They're usually either 1s or 2s. These guys are the good ones up here in the brown region. Those are usually +3. So I got some money out of those guys. Cleaning up over here, there were leaders in all of those spaces. I mean, I had stacks and leaders in all these spaces, and then I had a couple leaders up here too. But these guys were all +1s, so they're not getting a whole lot. So I did some combats and some sieges. I ended up doing more combats in order to get some guys promoted. As you can see, my army's getting kind of small actually. Because I'd promoted a lot of guys to 4s, which are good for victory point purposes. But access to cash becomes a real problem. You can see I'm at a 5 on the treasury right now. And it was good this last turn. I had eliminated a lot of the units on the map that are drains on your treasury in your upkeep phase. Or in your taxation phase, for that matter, where you're collecting, then you subtract out for, if you've got Vikings or Moors in a region, or if you've got enemies in a region. I had a number of regions that were totally enemy-free, which is good for keeping your treasury from getting degraded each turn. So this past turn where I ended up with 5 gold at the end of this turn was kind of a rarity. Prior to the previous couple of turns, I ended up with basically 0 in my treasury because I had enemies on the map that were a problem. One of the things that's helped is I've increased my taxation. As you can see, I've got a church built in the blue region. I've got a church under construction in the green region. And I've got another church under construction in the purple region. The only reason this purple church didn't get completed last turn is because I had Vikings end up landing there. And Vikings will prevent you from building anything during the build phase, which comes before the diplomacy phase, which is the only point at which you can get rid of Vikings, which is annoying. So hopefully this turn I won't have any Vikings landing in the purple zone, and I'll be able to finish the church there, helping to increase the tax base. Same thing down here. If I can finish this church, that'll increase the tax base. Although I'll only be finishing one church because currently I only have 5 gold, and I think it's 3 to finish a church. So basically I get to pick one of these zones where I want to finish the church and do it. Probably the purple zone, since that's going to be the one most likely to get preempted by Vikings. If I try and finish it, Vikings aren't going to be a problem down here in the green zone. So I do have the papacy up at +1, so I got my victory point for that, because at one point, one of the ways you can get a victory point from the papacy is if you're if your taxation is higher than what the treasury threshold is on the turn track, I'm trying to remember. I think that's what does it. And you can do that once per game. And whatever it was, whatever the once per game treasury related papacy thing was, I accomplished it like on turn 3. So that's where we are right now. Still the king of Lombardy. Again, my army getting a little small. Part of the problem with being poor is you can't levy troops. You need to be able to buy. I think I've bought a total of 2 units so far, and I bought Skara, which are the cavalry. They're super valuable. Although the level 3s are expensive to maintain, which is, you can see why I promoted a couple of them to level 4 so I could reduce that maintenance cost. But you don't want to let your army get too small for starters, because you won't be able to meet the military threshold, which is your number in the upper right here. If your army doesn't equal that number of points, well, you're going to have problems. And I'm going to have problems if I don't. At the end of this turn, I need 32. I can tell you right now, there ain't 32 points worth of levels in those stacks there. So, probably going to lose, actually, because there's no way to get more troops in here unless I promote them. So I need to do some battling and get some 3s promoted to 4s. Yeah, otherwise it's a loss. If I was playing with the easy rules, you could ignore the minimum military value, but I'm not doing that, so playing it the hard way. So we'll see where this goes. I'm not expecting to win, certainly, but the question will be, at what point do I lose? At what point does it become untenable, and do I lose a battle, or my army doesn't become strong enough to keep this going? The other problem with not having enough cash is that marquees are expensive, and you have to have marquees in order to get roads and bridges. But to get roads and bridges, you have to have finished churches, and just even getting churches for me was tough, because you need 6 to build a church. Basically, you need 3 to start, make it through a turn, and then you need 3 to finish. And I can't build too many more churches. I think I can build. I don't think you can exceed the number of marquees by more than 2 for churches. So maybe I could build 1 more church. Regardless, I need to get another marquee, and really, I need to get a marquee here, or ideally here. This is going to be more likely to have hostile troops, so this would be a good place to. The Green Region may be a good place to have a marquee. So, but again, I don't even have enough to do that right now, let alone after upkeep and all that shit happens. So we'll see. I think it's going to come down to money. Will kind of determine the direction that this thing goes, and that's probably what's going to end up causing me to lose. It's going to be either money, or actually even more likely than money will be minimum military strength. I'm probably going to run out of army troops, because if I don't have money to buy more and I keep promoting them and they keep retiring, yeah, I'm going to end up without an army. So we'll see.